Dave, I noticed that when Strip pitched a couple of days ago, using that changeup a lot more, as is Clayton Kershaw. Where would you say both of those guys are in the development of that particular pitch?
For Clayton, it's sort of been a work in progress over the last couple of years, and it's something. It's certainly a field pitch, and he's kind of experimented with different grips over the last couple years. And I think that he's got something he likes, and so there's no better time for him to implement it, while doing inter-squad games. So I think that each time he gets out there, he feels better with it. And with Strip, it's kind of changing his grip during the spring, probably over the winter, this past winter, and took it into the spring, and he really saw the reaction of the hitters and swing and miss and felt really good with it. So that's something to pitch right now. He's got a ton of confidence in.
Joe Davis pointed out that Chris Taylor's not a player that we talk about a lot. I mean, in the general public, as far as Major League Baseball is concerned. But since he became a full-time player in 2017, he is the 20th most valuable player as far as WAR is concerned. What do you think makes him so special consistently, even though he's not perhaps a guy we talk about a lot?
I think with Chris, there's a lot of things. And first of all, I don't think that he would have it any other way as far as being under the radar, and he just wants to play baseball. But I think, the combination of certainly skill set, his ability to do anything on a baseball field, and then also mindset where he prepares really well. And there's also a consistency to his mindset where he doesn't let outside influences impact the way, kind of how he goes about his day-to-day. He's got a very good pulse. He's a college student, intelligent guy, and he's tough. So those are a lot of good ingredients, and, we've had a lot of success here, and we certainly, he's a big part of it and allows me a lot of flexibility with the roster.
Thank you.
Next question is from Ken Gurnett. Go ahead, Ken.
Hey, Dave, we haven't seen Walker Buehler in a game, and I'm just wondering what his physical condition is and how he's going to be able to start in a real game next week.
Yeah, the plan is, I think it was Sunday. I think he went 1+ 1 or 2+. I think it was 1+, facing hitters in a live situation. So I would expect him here to do the same live BP, but I would expect it to be a 2+ situation. And then after that, his next outing will be, I don't know if it's in an exhibition or it'll be the inter-squad game. So the next time Walker throws to hitters, it'll be in a simulated situation. It'll be 2+. But Kenny, I think that, he's just a little bit behind the other guys. But once the season starts, whatever he can give us with the extra pitchers on the staff will be sufficient.
Next question is from Alden Gonzalez. Go ahead, Alden.
Hey, Dave. Just curious, given the mandates by the state of California yesterday forcing a lot of businesses to close, I'm wondering if you're starting to get concerned here that the protocols might extend themselves to a point where you're not going to be able to have the gatherings that would constitute a typical baseball workout or maybe eventually games, especially just given where we're trending as a state with the virus.
Certainly, it's been in our thoughts, and as it stands right now, things have been shut down, but it hasn't gotten down to us or affected us at this point. So kind of our thought, Alden, is just to kind of continue business as usual, take the necessary precautions.
Have you guys gotten to a point where you've thought about contingencies of what you would do if that were to be the case, in terms of whether you'd move your operations to Arizona or have guys work out on their own again or anything like that?
Alden, I don't think Arizona is a good spot for anyone right now. No, I think that we're hopeful that we can kind of make it work here and be responsible, and hopefully, the cooperation kind of, from our city officials, jives with what we're hoping for.
Thanks, Dave.
Next question is from Bill Plunkett. Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Bill.
Try it again. Go ahead, Bill.
Stop playing with me, Juan. See, Pedro Baez is in camp. What can you tell us about where he is on the readiness scale? And are there any other comings and goings with players?
I think AJ Pollock is here today. So that's I haven't seen him, but I've got wind that he's here, so that'd be a good thing. And we'll kind of get him in the mix, give him some at-bats, working him slowly. Pedro looks good. Threw a pen yesterday. No, actually, he just threw a flat ground and then did some PFPs, was moving around well. So hopefully we'll get him to face some hitters here in a couple days.
How much is Pollock cleared to do?
I think it's he's been working out, running, lifting, taking swings. So hasn't done a whole lot of baseball specific as far as on the field. So we'll get him in his spikes. We'll move him around. And I think that I don't see him playing defense tonight, but maybe take a couple at bats. If not, he'll see some live pitching here in the next couple of days and hopefully get him into a game soon.
If Buehler's behind a little bit, the other starters, where is Julio Urias on that?
I would say he's, he went the next time he's supposed to start is Wednesday, and he's going to go 3 or 4 innings. So certainly he's ahead of Walker. But with any of those guys, obviously we're going to have, a longer guy behind both or one of those guys to start it as we continue to build those guys up. But Julio, his last turn was really good, so I'm expecting him to continue to get lengthened out a little bit more on Wednesday.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Next question is from Jorge Castillo. Go ahead, Jorge.
Hey, Dave, do you have an update on Max Muncy?
He's kind of in rehab mode still, taking swings, batting practice. He hasn't taken grounders yet. I expect that here in the next day or two. But he's been doing the defensive actions, working his legs, getting into that squat position, the lateral, left to right. So he's doing all that stuff, staying in his spikes, keeping his arm going. So, again, I said it the other day, I expect him to be our first baseman when the season starts, and I still stand by that.
And do you plan on piping in noise for any of these scrimmages?
We do. As I understand it, we haven't settled on the company, but I think here this week, in the next couple of days, we'll have something that should be what we're going to use the rest of the season. But because I do want our guys to see what it feels like or hear what it feels like before we get to real games.
Cool. And one more, just going off of what Alden said earlier. It appears as though you guys are dealing with an LA County law that basically stipulates that anyone who comes in close contact with someone who tests positive has to quarantine for 14 days. Seems like you guys in the Nationals are only teams that are dealing with that. Just baseball-wise, are you worried that that's going to create an uneven playing field once the season starts?
A little bit. We're trying not to make too big of a deal of it, but it's kind of county to county, state to state, as far as what the expectations are with the contact tracing and what you need to do to protect, the person you're in contact with and others around. But I think that for the County of Los Angeles, I think that we are more on the conservative side, which I think is a good thing. But obviously we talk about competitive advantage when, our guys might be out a little bit longer than, another team's players, certainly. But I think the most important thing is the health of the players, and we'll make do regardless of, what we're up against.
Has that law impacted you guys so far? Has that kept players from camp at some point here in the first couple of weeks?
Potentially.
Okay. Thank you.
Next question is from Ron Kavner. Go ahead, Ron.
Hi, Dave. When you consider all Corey had to get over physically in 2018, how would you assess what you saw from him last year, and then how encouraged are you to see how he's looked so far in summer camp?
Last year, I think that Corey was just happy to play baseball. So I think that, there was a part of going through the off season and missing playing baseball. So then now you get to spring training the season and he's healthy. He's just happy to play. This year, his body is even in better shape, and obviously it's early, but he's as locked in as I've seen him. And a lot of it has to do with he had a normal winter, normal spring training that albeit got abbreviated, and he worked really hard over quarantine. And really, Corey hasn't missed a beat. So he's always focused and quiet, determined, but this is as good as we've seen him.
I have another question from Alana Rizzo. Go ahead, Alana.
Dave, you had mentioned Walker Buehler maybe a tick behind some of your other starters. And with the way that the schedule plays out, do you anticipate needing 5 starters or, with days off? I mean, how would you guys work that?
Yeah. We're gonna start out with 5 starters. We haven't, I know we talked about Clayton being the opening day starter. Outside of that, we're still uncertain where we're going to kind of put those guys, slot those guys, but we are, Alana, going to start with 5 starters.
Okay, thank you.
Got it.
Another question from Pedro Mora. Go ahead, Pedro.
Hey, Dave. So with Pedro Baez and AJ Pollock back, you guys are only missing now Alexander and Ruiz from the 40-man. Is that correct?
Scotty was here yesterday. He threw a pen yesterday and actually looked at, I think it was a 15, 20 pitch pen, and did some PFPs. So I'm not sure when Mark's going to get into a game, but I would expect over the next 2-3 days he'll be in there.
Okay, so it's just Ruiz now you're missing.
Correct.
Thanks.
I have another question from Ken Gurnick. Go ahead, Ken. Go ahead, Ken.
Dave, getting back to Buehler, did he suffer an injury? I mean, he had 4 months to repair. Obviously, a lot of the other starters are throwing 4, 5, 6 innings. How is it that he is behind at this point?
I think with Walker, Clayton, Ross, certain other guys, Woody throughout quarantine. And I think with Walker, he took some time off. And with the uncertainty, and that was his decision, and Mark was in tune with it. So just kind of the build-up period for Walker is just going to take a little bit longer. So I think ultimately, to get him, when the season starts, 3-4 innings with some guys behind him, he'll be fine, and we'll just continue to build him up. But I think, Kenny, it was because he took some time off over quarantine.
Another question from Jorge. Go ahead, Jorge.
Actually, I'm good, guys. Okay.
I have a question from Eric Steven. Go ahead, Eric.
Dave, are there any plans to have major league umpires for any of the intrasquad games, or are they only going to come when you have exhibitions?
So they're starting tonight, Eric. Ryan Blakeney, he's going to be one, and then another umpire that I'm not too familiar with, he'll be here. So I think going forward, we'll have those 2 guys for the rest of the inter-squad games. And then once we get to the exhibition, I think we'll have a full slate of 4 umpires. So you've seen the last of Bob Garrett. Ryan will play.
Then I have one final question from JP Hornstra. Go ahead, JP.
Hey, Dave. Speaking of umpires, there was a report today that 11 umps are opting out of the season. First question, I'm assuming they're going to call up 11 rookies, some part-time guys. What do you think the most noticeable impact of that will be?
Well, I think that familiar faces that we're used to seeing are choosing to opt out. And obviously that's a personal decision that we all in baseball support. But also I think, JP, it gives guys that an opportunity, and some younger guys that are going to get to be major league umpires for a season. So, for everyone, for all rookies, it's still exciting regardless of what you do. So that'll be fun.